Hello guys and welcome to another video. Today we are reviewing episode 6 of the Percy Jackson and the Olympians Disney Plus adaptation. And of course, if you've been following this show at all, you know that this episode is the Lotus Casino episode. The long-awaited episode where we get to see if they decided to stick with Lady Gaga's poker face during the Lotus scene or not. Spoiler warning, Rick announced right before the episode came out that he wanted nothing to do with the movies and that it should be okay to forget bad adaptations. Those weren't his exact words, these were, which were much more brutal, and I love to see it. Sad to see Lady Gaga go, but I think the change that they made worked. So in case you haven't watched this episode, non-spoilery stuff that I can say is that it was Percy heavy and that they changed a couple of things about the Lotus Casino scene, and also that this episode includes probably my favorite scene from any episode that we've gotten so far, and it's one of the final scenes. It's so purely Percy Jackson, even though it's not in the books, that I was like, how is this not in the books? This was absolute perfection, and I do not say that lightly about adaptations, but Rick clearly knows his characters. So with that being said, let's get into the spoilers. Everyone was waiting for this episode to drop, not only because the casino scene is the most iconic one in the whole movie, but because everyone expected to get a little D'Angelo cameo. But we'll talk about that later. Let's start from the start. So this episode has a kind of a weird start because we start in the principal's office, and the principal, whose face is kind of like in shadow, is telling someone off, clearly talking to the lightning thief. So we think this is like a god in disguise who's talking to someone who we don't know yet because Grover hasn't had his big reveal yet. And then we see that Percy is hiding in a closet, looking very confused but eavesdropping in the conversation. And then this principal slash hidden god looks at Percy and is like, this guy is listening to us even as he dreams. I'm confusing that with a musical. And then suddenly Percy jolts awake and he is in the van with all the wild animals, Grover and Annabeth. Big spoiler warning for you non-book readers about the ending of the book. This is clearly Kronos. We've seen Kronos before in the show, kind of looking like a weird Dementor. A floating black figure with a cloak on, has like a raspy voice. But here, he's just a principal that we saw in the first episode. I believe that this is for the viewer's sake, so you don't make the connection that this guy is actually the bad guy that we saw from before, that this might just be another god in disguise. But I thought it was kind of jarring, because if that's Kronos, and this is Kronos, then yeah. But then I saw a theory online that the Dreams characters took on the appearance of the principal and the location of the principal's office because that was the last place that Percy had been kind of like abused wrongfully by an authority figure, here the headmaster slash god or Kronos, and the last place that Percy had been betrayed by a friend, in this case being Grover. Spoiler warning for the actual lightning thief, Luke Castellan. So if that is actually what was going on in the writer's head when they wrote that episode, that is incredible. I don't know if I could have gotten to that conclusion myself, but that's why we have Twitter and Tumblr, people. The first thing that I do after discussing the episode with my brother and my best friend McKenna is I go into Tumblr. I look at all the gifs of the Percy and Annabeth stairs. I'm like, great Percybeth content this episode. And then I go on Twitter and I do the same thing. And after that, and after I'm satisfied with my Percybeth content intake, I go into the theories. I'm like, okay, so this is what people thought about this is what people thought about that, and this is what people are thinking is happening. It's a very good thing, and also, I'm guessing that's what you guys do when you come and watch my reviews. It's good to see various points of view because other people pick up on things that you might not pick up on. That's why I'm here. I found it interesting that in the animal van, we don't get to see any of the animals, but I think they just reserved that for the cutaway joke that we get later on. We get this cute scene with Grover poking his head out of the van to see where they are and how close they are to the city. So that was really cute, and we also get like a cute Percybeth scene, but I just found it weird that we didn't get to see the animals in the cages. We also don't, and this is sad, they kind of made up for it, but we don't get to see the because you're my friend seaweed brain, any more stupid questions. And I feel like that's such a fundamental part of Percybeth in the books that it's kind of sad that it's not there, but at the same time it is an adaptation, so I feel like that moment was adapted into a different moment in the previous episode, we definitely got like a Percybeth hug way before its time was supposed to happen in the books. So I feel like the scales are balanced, and we have so many mentions of friend between them that I feel like it didn't necessarily have to happen. I'm not salty, but I would have loved to see that. Have Leah and Walker read Percybeth passages that weren't in the book, like recreate them. I would be happy if they did that. It doesn't have to be in the show. But at the very same time, instead of getting that line, we get Percy and Annabeth sitting beside each other. Annabeth has this like prism thing that creates a rainbow, and she's like, toss it, seaweed brain, talking about like a golden drachma, because you have to throw it in to create the connection. And oh my god, that casual seaweed brain mentions just because it's just going to be casual from now on. Annabeth created the nickname like the episode before, and now she's just going to keep using it, and I'm so thankful. Good, because that's the way it's supposed to be. Like the first time, it felt like they dropped an atomic bomb on us in like the best way possible. But now they're just gonna toss it around like it's nothing, and that's the way it should be. So obviously, love to see that. This scene with the Iris message was just everything, because they tried to contact Chiron, obviously, to like tell him what's going on and that they know who the lightning thief is, and then who picks up the message? None other than Luke Castellan himself. And it's a very interesting look that they decided on for the Iris message. I thought it was gonna be more like a huge screen, maybe circular with rainbow around it, maybe because of the fan art I've seen all throughout the years, but it gave the vibe of like a Star Wars hologram, but make it fantasy and make it rainbow. So it wasn't very clear, which I think makes sense because a rainbow is made of light and they're usually not very focused. It was fine, it was hard to see on my little TV. I was like, oh, and I went, still, with the rainbow, it looked really pretty. So of course, they dropped the bomb on Luke that they know who the lightning thief is. Darling Luke, instead of asking who is the lightning thief, he asks, how do you know? And Annabeth kind of looks at him like, it's a weird question to ask. And you know Annabeth, she can work that eyebrow, so she's looking very suspicious, but it's Luke, so she lets it go. I think they kind of did a disservice to Grover, because Grover obviously was talking to the animals, so he wasn't there for the reveal of who the lightning thief was. And I think that from the ending of the previous episode, he deserved to be the one who dropped that, information. That hot piece of information. But we got a really cute Percybeth moment out of it, so I'm not going to complain too much. That's quickly becoming a common trend with me and watching these episodes. I'm like, well, that didn't happen exactly or even close to how it did in the book, but we got a cute Percybeth moment out of it, so I'm not complaining. I'm easy to please, okay? I know what I like. This is your reminder to click like and subscribe if you like what you're watching, and if you want to keep watching reviews from me and more Percy Jackson related video content. Also, stay tuned to the very end of this video because there's a very special Illumicrate unboxing and a very special promo code so you can get 50% off your next purchase. Let's keep talking Percybeth. When they say Clarice, Luke is clearly so relieved. It's like, oh, it's okay. I don't need to worry about you two kids. I don't have to like murder you yet. And then Annabeth and Percy had this cute moment, this great moment. Like, oh, Medusa was on Monday. No, that was on Saturday. No, Saturdays we didn't get any monsters. And Lucas just sat there watching them and he interrupts them. He's like, what's going on? When did you two become an old married couple? Thank you, Luke, for your service. And they look at each other and then they look away embarrassed, and Percy's like, not to change the subject, but I am. I feel like Percy plus sass has started coming out more as the episodes have developed. Obviously at the beginning he was very crushed by the fact that his mother was supposedly dead, so we didn't get a lot of that sass, of that snark, that good humorness that Percy has. But as Percy has gotten to like Annabeth more and has gotten more comfortable in their situation and in the quest, he's starting to let that show more, and I'm really here for it because I was kind of worried at the beginning. But Walker is bringing it home. How is it that I've been talking for a while and I'm still on the van scenes? So right when Percy is about to tell Luke that they're going to see Hermes, Luke's father, Annabeth is like, nope. She breaks the connection, and then she drops the bomb on Percy that they're not on good terms, and actually Luke kind of hates Hermes, for some reason. And afterwards, Grover is like, I have the best plan to get the animals out here safely. And then it cuts to them just running around Las Vegas wildly. And this is safe? And Grover's like, yeah, it's perfectly safe. And Percy's like, I meant for the humans. Grover's like, don't even care. And I love to see that. It was a very good transition. However, I saw someone say this, and I agree. For an episode that's called something along the lines of We Ride a Zebra to Las Vegas, there was no zebra to be seen throughout the whole episode. So that was weird. Because obviously, in the books, we get a lion, a zebra, and some other kind of African animal that's also like a herbivore. I forget what it is. But here, we definitely saw a camel and maybe something else that was jumping around. But where was the zebra? It's in the episode title. Why not just CGI a zebra onto there? Honestly, quite the confusing choice to make. And then of course we get Grover saying that he gave the animals a Seder blessing. And I was like, oh my god, she's gonna say it. Percy's going to ask, why not give us the blessing to help us find our way home or whatever. Annabeth was going to be like, because it would only work on you, because it only works on animals, blah, blah, blah. But of course, we didn't get that because actually they're kind of on good terms. Come on, it's the trend we're picking up. If they didn't give us something else, they gave us a Perciveth moment. The thing that they did is that Percy's like, so how are you gonna know what the Lotus Casino looks like? How are you gonna find which one it is? Annabeth just turns around in that moment. She's like, well, I don't know, maybe the one with a huge lotus flower coming out of it. And it's literally this huge casino with a huge lotus in the middle. And Percy's like, okay, this time you were just like 2 seconds ahead of me. And Annabeth's like, okay. And Percy actually says like, sometimes you could think about letting the little ones go. And obviously Annabeth is gonna have none of it. And good, Annabeth, because you should keep that guy on his toes. And while all of this is happening, Grover is just there in the background thinking to himself that he's just going to have to resign himself to the life of being a perpetual third wheel to his 2 best friends. And honestly, he takes one for the team because it's thanks to him that all of these Perciveth moments can happen. So Grover, I salute you for your service. Here I have written that gaze, that smile, because the looks that were shared during that interaction between Percy and Annabeth were next level. We're getting such great gifts out of these 2 kids looking at each other already in season 1. If this show doesn't get renewed and we don't get season 4 angst, I'm gonna cry. Like, I've invested too many years of my life into this show. Too many. Please keep watching it. Please make your friends, make your family watch it, because I need more. Not a want, a need. Let's get to the actual casino scene. Why don't we? Because I'm not going to shut up about Perciveth. So let's talk at least about Perciveth in the Lotus Casino. So continuing the trend of going to Medusa's place and Annabeth being immediately like, Annie M, statues, who might that be? Medusa. We get there and Grover's like, maybe this is connected to the Lotus Eaters in the Odyssey, right? Percy, you read that? And Percy's like, I read the graphic novel. And Annabeth's like, that still counts, but I'm getting sidetracked again by Perciveth. So then Percy explains what the Lotus Eaters were and how one night there could mean 100 nights outside. And they're like, okay, we just won't eat the lotus flowers, which seems like a decent plan at the time. Immediately as they go in, for some reason, Annabeth is like, let's split up. And they're like, no. She gets the great idea that, okay, Grover can go by himself so he can have his like tiny little side quest, as apparently they're keen on doing on this show, and then Percy and Annabeth can go together, which obviously, once again, no notes, no complaints, love to see it. One of the things that I'm most skeptical about in the show is that Percy knows all about the Greek myths, making Sally a better mother because she better prepared him for what he was about to face. But that changes the Perciveth dynamic a lot and the trio's dynamic a lot, because in the books, they face a monster, they face something, and Percy's like, I don't know what's going on. Annabeth's like, you idiot, I'm going to explain, and then Grover helps her explain. But here, it's like, Percy, you know about this, right? And then Percy explains it to them and to Annabeth, who has been at camp for 5 years, who should know this stuff. And to Grover, who is literally a mythological creature, who should also know this stuff. And Grover clearly knew about the Lotus thing. Annabeth probably knew as well. There was no sign that she knew. How could Annabeth not have read the Odyssey? I do not believe that. But, once they get there, they're like, how are we gonna find Hermes? And Percy actually turns to Annabeth and he's like, wise girl. He says those exact words. And right after last week, I had a whole ass discussion with my friend McKenna about when they were going to drop the first wise girl. I was like, maybe at the end of the season, or maybe they'll leave it till the next season. I don't know. I think it would be too good. I think it would be too much of a delusion to believe that we were going to get it in this season or get it soon in the season right after getting Seaweed Brain for the first time. Well, actually, we get it in the next episode right after Seaweed Brain reveal. We get a wise girl name drop. Oh my god. The way I squealed, I had kind of spoiled myself for it, but I didn't know when it was coming, and when it came, I was like, so good. Needless to say, I don't care that it wasn't how it happened in the books. It was perfect. The important thing is that Percy and Annabeth go one way, Grover goes the other. He finds a satyr who knew about Uncle Ferdinand. They talk about Pan, and you can start to tell that Grover is forgetting about things because obviously he didn't eat anything, so it's probably something in the air. I don't know. It was something in the air that night, the stars so bright, Fernando. So Grover goes and follows this weird satyr and completely forgets about Percy and Annabeth and the quest, and he's like, I'm just going to go find Pam, or wait, no, I'm just gonna go play this video game here. We didn't get to see him actually being a deer and hunting humans, which would have been fun to see. Might have been a little bit too much for a Disney show. So Percy and Annabeth, they just walk around the casino a little bit, and we get another great Percy-Annabeth interaction. They start talking about, well, why does Luke hate Hermes, you know? I thought he liked his dad, and Annabeth kind of like spills the whole backstory. Luke's mom, which I don't know how much she knew in the books because she was 7, so when she visited Luke's mom, I don't think she actually understood what was going on. She was just afraid of May Castellan. But here, she clearly knew a little bit of what was going on, but not a lot, because the way she was explaining things was very foggy and ambiguous. So I think Annabeth knows a bit more than she does in the books, but she doesn't know a lot. And it's interesting to see that they're dropping this in the first season, middle of the first season, instead of waiting to reveal this in season 5. Clearly, it seems to me that they're trying to make Luke much more empathetic from the beginning. And I like that because we don't get to see that much of Luke in the show. We get to see a little bit more of him in the book, in the first book, but in the show, since they go on the quest so fast, we don't spend that much time at Camp Half-Blood. So we don't get to see that many interactions between Luke and Percy. However, if we get to see this side of Luke from Annabeth, his little sister, it gives us like a better view on him and his motives. Even though it differs from the book, I thought it was a good choice. So after a bit of talking and bonding between these two, they find Hermes, and Annabeth goes into complete Percy mode, and she starts being like, this is what we want, and this is what you're going to do for us. Annabeth is clearly unhinged at this point towards the gods, and I love to see it. In case you've forgotten, Hermes is played by none other than Lin-Manuel Miranda, and the times that I've seen him on screen haven't been the best. I think he is a great composer and a good Broadway performer. However, I don't necessarily always want to see him on screen. But I thought he did a good job. I thought he portrayed Hermes honestly, and he seemed down to earth. Hermes always stands apart from the rest of the gods because he shows that he clearly cares for Luke, even after Luke has done the things that he does. It seems that Hermes always cared for him and his mother, even though Luke can't see that at all. But it always set Hermes apart from the other gods because he wasn't like crazy. He wasn't like loony or wacky or quirky. He looked out for Luke in the best way he could, or in the way he thought was best. So it makes sense for Hermes to stand apart from the rest of the gods and how they behave. However, from the beginning, he's like, I'm not going to help you because you know what happens to heroes who go into the underworld? He doesn't say, but the fact is that they usually don't come back out. And then he does this thing because he's like, you've caused other people pain or whatever. I don't remember, something about loved ones and feeling pain because of you. And he touches Percy. And for a second, we get a glimpse of Percy in a car, young Percy, like the other actor. And Percy's like shocked at that. And he's about to touch Annabeth and she's like, I remember very well. And now I'm just confused. What is going on? I think we're gonna get the full flashback later on. Maybe Percy and Annabeth are going to discuss it. And then Annabeth is going to share what her memory would have been. I don't know. But also, I would have loved to see young Annabeth but it might have been too traumatic to see her actual memory because Annabeth has had a very hard past. But also, Hermes, you're so wrong for doing that, but at the same time, thank you, because now I want to know more. After that, Annabeth is done with Hermes and his games, and she's like, I'm just gonna leave, you're not gonna help us, bye-bye. Percy stays and he talks a bit more, and Hermes is actually like, yeah, I took parenting advice from your dad actually, and that's like one moron asking another moron for advice, specifically on this topic. It's interesting how this show is making Poseidon out to be like a great dad, or at the very least, much better than the other Greek gods. Because obviously, compared to Athena, Poseidon is dad of the year. And even Hermes is dad of the year compared to Athena in this, because Athena sucks. But it's interesting how they're making Poseidon so good despite having neglected Percy for so long. What do you think that is? They're maybe doing like a whole juxtaposition thing, so it's not black and white. Like the gods aren't all good, they're not all bad either. That's why Luke is not completely right, because there's some good ones or some like lesser bad ones. I just know that Percy is going to be very sad in season 2 once Poseidon starts ignoring him. So then Percy goes back to Annabeth and they have this whole conversation about things that Hermes supposedly said to Percy that for some reason we didn't get to see. So why didn't they show the whole thing? It just felt jarring as a viewer. Percy being like, yeah, Hermes said this. And we're like, well, we saw the conversation you had with Hermes. So why didn't we see that? It was a bit weird, but the thing that happens right afterwards made me forget. So Annabeth's like, okay, we got this covered because we have the keys. And Percy's like, yeah. And then he's like, what? And then Annabeth shows him the keys that she pickpocketed from Hermes, god of thieves. Percy looks at her in amazement and she's like, what? I'm multi-talented. And he just looks so impressed. Another one of those great gifts that we've gotten from this episode. And then they go and they're like, wait, Grover. So they go and they look for Grover, and for some reason they find this satyr guy. Okay, they find him. And Percy's like, I'm just going to follow this guy and tackle him to the ground. And after he tackles him to the ground, he threatens him. He looks very menacing. For a 12-year-old. And then the scene cuts to Annabeth and Percy just walking and finding Grover. And it felt so jarring. Like, we have this short chase sequence and it ends with Percy tackling a guy and then they completely forget about it. It felt like there was a whole scene missing, like a whole chunk. I was like, what is happening? But we get Percy and Annabeth walking and finding Grover, and they're like, okay, Grover has forgotten a lot of stuff. And then we get the reveal that it's because he was alone. And when you're alone, it's easier to forget what matters. And because Percy and Annabeth were together, they didn't forget. And they didn't forget about each other. A lot of people are saying this is a great parallel and symbolism for Percy then, spoilers, in Son of Neptune, spoilers, forgetting about everyone else except Annabeth's name and face. Love to see it once again. And of course, I, as everyone else was trying to spot a D'Angelo cameo in this scene. I didn't see anything. That is where Twitter and Tumblr come in. Because I went in there and people are freaking insane. They found the thing. First I saw that when they go to the parking garage, there's a car that's from the exact same year when the D'Angelos arrive at the Lotus Casino. So I think that might have been on purpose. But then when Percy and Annabeth actually find Grover playing this like VR game, there's apparently, and I can't hear it very well, but apparently you can hear the voice of a little boy screaming, Bianca! Bianca! Honestly, it just sounded like to me. But if you hear Bianca, let me know, because props to you. Very funny to me that Nico was just there for several years just screaming Bianca's name. Also, I forgot to mention, they replaced the Poker Face song with Levitating by Dua Lipa, and I thought it was like very age appropriate and very this year, or at least this decade appropriate. I like the change. A lot of people also, you're not gonna believe this, a lot of people are complaining that we didn't get to see the kids get high on Lotus flowers and we didn't get to see the Grover dancing scene. I'm not even gonna argue. If you want that, then this show's clearly not for you. Imagine wanting the Grover dancing scene with his hooves painted bright red and a fedora. And then afterwards, once they get out, Grover still doesn't remember anything, so he's like, how am I supposed to drive? I don't remember anything. I think that disqualifies me. Honestly, I'm glad they did that, because when I watched the preview, it's like, why isn't the 24-year-old boy driving the car? You know, people pointed out goat legs are probably not the best to sit down and use the pedals, but I like that they gave us this excuse as well. And we're here. We've reached the greatest scene of all time. The greatest scene in Percy Jackson history. It's Percy and Annabeth and Grover sitting in the taxi. Percy's like, how do you even drive this thing? Just watching 12-year-old Percy trying to drive a car out of a parking garage with columns in it and other cars parked there. It's just the very thing that I never knew I needed. And it was just like the perfect thing, the most perfect thing I've seen in my life, because Percy just kept crashing into everything. He went forward when he meant to go back. He went back and he like zoomed into a car. He crashed into everything he could crash into. And when he's like going like this, kind of finally getting it, a car like appears out of nowhere and he's like, he didn't even slow down. And once the car is like miles away, once it's already out, he starts beeping the horn. That felt like such a perfect moment. It seems so silly, but this scene, my absolute favorite of all time, encapsulated all three of them so perfectly. And Annabeth is like, she obviously always is like, I know better than you, but this time she's like, I have no clue how to do this. Mind you, this girl is maybe going to fly a helicopter in season 5, so it's interesting to see that she didn't want to risk taking the taxi out of the garage, because that's the only thing that they needed to do. They needed to take it out of the parking lot, and then once there, the car would drive itself. If you drive, you know, like getting out of parking lots is probably the hardest thing you can do. Percy is like, oh my god, there's going to be a curve there. That's the hardest thing you can do, like a turn. But he starts doing it and it starts going well. So he's like, oh my god, yeah. And he starts looking at Annabeth, this like deranged look in his face, like completely delighted, like he's doing it, and she smiles at him and he's like, he's so happy because he's doing it, and Annabeth is proud of him. So of course, and this is how I'm going to choose to interpret this scene, he gets distracted by her smile and he immediately rams the car against the wall that's on Annabeth's side, and like everything breaks on Annabeth's side. There's like sparks coming out, and Annabeth's like, oh my god, Seaweed Brain, get your head in the game. If that was not the perfect ending to that sequence, it made me laugh so hard, because honestly, as someone who has driven for a long time and who started driving at a young age for someone in Spain, I'm not gonna say this is 100% true in case my mom is watching, but I might have had almost that exact same experience. You know, sometimes you're like, oh my god, I'm doing so well. You get distracted. You start driving towards the side that you're looking at, and then suddenly half your car is gone because you just love that scene. I can't express in words how much I love to see that scene. Once they go out of the garage, they are teleported to what I'm guessing is Santa Monica. It's nighttime and they get out of the car, and Grover starts remembering. He's like, that's weird. Why did I forget everything and you guys didn't? Percy just then walks right into the ocean, and honestly, did I love the way that the scene looked? Not really. I was like, is Percy going to actually talk underwater? He did, and I like that. Obviously, it was nighttime, but I couldn't see anything because it was so dark. And obviously, underwater scenes are mostly going to be dark because the light doesn't reach the bottom of the ocean. And it was like all covered in seaweed, but still, I would have loved to see a little bit more like golden magical lightning. You can do that, lighting. Get us magical lighting. And a narrate, I don't know, a water speeder shows up there, and she's like, Poseidon couldn't come here because it's already past the solstice. And at that moment, every single book reader's jaw dropped. We're like, what the actual because obviously in the books, they managed to finish the quest and get to Olympus seconds before the solstice starts. But here, quest is nowhere near finished. And the solstice is already, it came and it went. Not only that, but this girl has the nerve, oh my god, the lighting suddenly got so much better. This girl, this woman, has the nerve to give Percy not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 pearls to get out of the underworld. Everyone was shocked. Obviously, book readers, we don't know what's going to happen at any minute. Like, we've been kept on our toes from that very beginning, but I feel like this is the biggest curveball that we've gotten so far. Like, this changes everything. This raises the stakes and the tension to 100. Obviously, one of the lines in the prophecy that scares Percy the most is that you shall fail to save what matters most in the end, meaning obviously his mom. So I believe that one of those pearls is going to get lost in the underworld, and they're just going to have 3 at the end, which is why they're going to have to leave the mom behind in the underworld, which is going to make Percy feel so much worse because the possibility of getting his mom out of there alive was there. But then, because of him or because of something that someone else does, it's no longer there. So it feels more like his fault, and it feels more like there was hope, and then you lost the hope, which is, I feel like, worse than having no hope at all from the beginning. And then the episode ends with what belongs to the sea can always return, which obviously is a great lyric from the Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief musical. And then, people, oh my god, we get the preview. And let me tell you, if you had asked me to bet all my money on the fact that we weren't going to get a scene where they go into the waterbed emporium, or whatever that's called, that's not what it's called, to the places with the beds and the guy that stretches them to fit the bed perfectly, if you had asked me to bet all my money on the fact that that wasn't going to be a scene, I would have bet all my freaking money. The fact that we've gotten it in the preview just shook me to my core, because they're changing a lot about the show. So I was like, why would they keep that? Honestly, every time I read it in the book, I forget that it's there, and every time I get there, I'm like, oh, I forgot this was there, because it's inconsequential. It honestly adds nothing except humor. And I'm not complaining about that, but I'm just saying it's the least important of the side quest. And it's the last one, so it's the easiest one to cut. So when we saw that in the preview, I was like, no, this can't be. But we did, we got it. So honestly, I'm very excited about that, because the rest of the episode, it has to be a long episode. Besides that, we get into the underworld. We see Percy and Grover go off and do their own thing, and Annabeth by herself on a cliff, like hanging from a cliff. Obviously, I have trauma of Annabeth and cliffs, so I'm very concerned about what's happening there. Why are Percy and Grover in like Tatooine? Is that Grover falling into Tartarus? I don't understand what's happening. Why do they split up, and why is it this time Percy and Grover? Is it the shoe things? Does Annabeth get left behind? Is that a thing that Luke maybe did to the shoes so that Annabeth would be repelled from them and that she wouldn't be pulled along with them? I would love to see that. We get a scene of Ares. We're going to have this stretching out on the bed thing, and then we're going to have the going to the underworld and then almost getting dragged into Tartarus thing. We're gonna get the Cerberus thing, and then we're gonna get Ares at the end. If this is not an hour-long episode, then I don't know how they're gonna cram all of that into one single episode. And I'm frightened. And also, I've heard people saying that we're gonna get the Sally and Poseidon flashback in the next episode. So honestly, I don't know how they're gonna juggle like 40 different storylines here, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'll be impressed if they pull it off. It's finally time for the unboxing. This is their bookish box for the month of December, my birth month, so I'm extra excited to open this one. So the first thing that we see in here immediately is this little box, and my first thought is it's going to be a mug. Books are a way to live 1,000 lives. I think this is inspired by The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Let me check. Yes, I am correct. What are you? One of my main weaknesses in life is opening things. I have no strength in my fingers. I'm very bad at opening packages, which is great for me to be doing an unboxing for you. What is this? Oh, it's my god. What? You can't see anything because it's too shiny. It's really pretty. It has the same quote on both sides. It has the Illumicrate logo on the bottom. Sudden ASMR. Having a TBR jar is so cute. However, I'm a little bit of a mood reader, and when someone says read this, I'm like, no, I'm never gonna read it, and I'll usually pick it up after a year or two of being stubborn, but I just like to pick out what I feel like reading. And I feel like if I pick a book when I don't feel like reading it, I'm gonna hate it, and that's going to damage that experience. But this could come in useful for like other things. I'm immediately thinking of putting my money in here because I like to have a money jar when I'm saving up for something. So that's what I might use this for. It's lovely. Look at it. And I love the idea that this is not a mug because honestly, my house is overflowing with mugs. I have a very extensive collection. I love this idea. Boop. So next up we have, oh, is that a blankie? Can you guys see? What is this? Get out. I'm confused. What? It looks like Starro from the DC universe, like in Suicide Squad, but like also a Homer Simpson donut. I'm so confused, but this is honestly, it's really cute. Stargate donut tea towel, a star-shaped donut or a donut-shaped star. Suffice it to say that I'm very intrigued to know what that book is about. Next up, we have what looks like a weekly planner. If I don't write something down and plan it out, I'm not going to do it. So this is perfect for me. Whoop. Okay, so we start with this. It says this week, then the date, all the days of the week, and you can track your habits here. But what I really like about this is when you're done with the week, you can just trash it. Easily plan your week with this gorgeous weekly planner influenced by the world of Violet made of thorns. The drawing is so pretty, but there's no thorns in there, I don't think. All in all, a lovely and very beautifully designed weekly calendar. My one gripe with it is that I wish there were like at least 2 or 3 or 4 different designs that you could look forward to getting after you rip all the other ones out. And I love the fact that the week starts with Monday, because people who start their weeks on a Sunday, there's a special place in hell for you. And we've reached our last item before we get the book of the month, an Illumicrate 2024 calendar. Beautiful! Prepare for the new year with this multi-fandom calendar, which has stunning artwork featuring many of the favorite bookish locations. Oh my god, take a guess. Is this going to include Hogwarts, the Citadel, and Camp Half-Blood? The first 3 things that came to mind. We start with this lovely view. Oh my god, for January, it's the Artemisia Palace from the Lunar Chronicles, which I have read and adored. Whoop! Ooh. For February, we have this lovely illustration. Ooh, what is this? This is from Under the Whispering Door for March. Then we have this lovely little thing, the Jasmine Throne for April. Then we have a little bit of a darker one here for May. Whoa, this one's so pretty. June has a very pretty one. The Woven Kingdom. Ooh, I have read this one. The Priory of the Orange Tree, which is just perfect and super orange for July. I just looked at this and I was like, this is Avatar. This is August, The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi. Whoa, I recognize this one immediately. September, Light from Uncommon Stars. October, The Stardust Thief. Definitely feel like I know that title. Let's check out November. Ooh, so this is Ever After. That also rings a bell. Next up, ooh, pretty. Daughter of the Moon Goddess. And that's December. Oh, so that's my month. Okay. And that's the Illumicrate 2024 calendar. Kind of disappointed to see that there's no like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson. However, I can feel that these are more like recent fandoms and fandoms that they have done merch for recently in the box. Now I'm very intrigued about what the donut thing is about. I'm so confused. And of course, the pièce de la résistance is the book. And it's always such a big book. Oh my god. I was gonna open it well and I ripped it down the middle. Can't reuse this, damn it. This book is huge and honestly I'm already super confused because of this cover. Like this medieval looking paladin and then this guy who looks like he just jumped out of maybe of a futuristic high school but with a sword. The Prince of Moments by Esme Jakiemi Pearson. That last one, I understood. It's book 1 in the Order of Legends series. Ooh! This includes a signature by the author. Okay, they're so pretty. Okay, definitely they live in space. That's what I'm getting. Courage is the only thing stronger than fear, and love is the thread that holds the atoms of this universe together. This is giving Treasure Planet vibes. And it has a different illustration in the back. I love that, because when they have the same one, it's like, you could have done better. Whoa, 6066, very far off in the future. The Emperor thrusts in a brave new galaxy. Humans are not citizens, but indentured laborers, working to repay the debt they unwittingly incurred when they settled on GAGA, a desert planet already owned by the Emperor himself. Asha Akindele knows she's just another voiceless cog working the assembly line that fuels his vast imperial war machine. Her only rebellion, studying stolen aeronautics manuals in the dead of night. But then a cloaked stranger arrives to deliver an important message and her life changes in an instant. Classic! Oh, we have 2 POVs, love it. 1812, Obi Amadi is done with time traveling. Never mind the fact that he doesn't know how to cure himself of the temporal sickness he caught whilst anchoring his soul in the Regency of London, the one that makes him further with every jump. or if the prince he loves will ever love him back, or why his father disappeared, he is done until he hears about the ghost of a girl in the British Museum, a girl from another time. When Obi's path tangles with Asha's and a prophecy awakens in the cold darkness of space, they must voyage through the stars, racing against time, tyranny, and the legacy of three heroes from an ancient religion who may be awakening, reincarnated in ways beyond comprehension. Honestly, I'm kind of more confused after reading that synopsis than I was from seeing this cover. All in all, it seems like a very interesting book, and it's sci-fi with a little bit of time travel, so it's up my alley. And I'm sure the author of this book is so happy with this cover and with this Illumicrate edition. It's just stunning. So this is everything I got in Illumicrate's December box. I have to say that my two favorites are the tea towel with the star donuts and this TBR jar. I just know I'm gonna be using it and praying that I never break this because it's honestly super adorable. Go sign up to Illumicrate because they are incredible. They have amazing products and the best editions of books that you never knew that you needed. Go sign up now. The information's down below in the description box. Go do it! I think those are all my thoughts on this episode. If this turns out to be longer than 40 minutes, I need to chill because I don't know how I'm going to react to the finale. It's going to be 2 hours long. I'm sorry. You're just gonna have to deal with it. But please, 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 please let me know how much you like this episode. If you could hear the Bianca thing, because honestly, I feel like I'm deaf. I couldn't hear it at all. And let me know which was your favorite scene from this episode and why it was the getting out of the garage scene, because honestly, top tier, nothing could ever beat that. And if we get a better scene than that, then I'm just gonna retire because my heart can't take it. Leave a like if you like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and click that bell button to get notifications every time I post a new video. I post videos just like this normally every single Friday, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye!